What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Wisdom Wayne podcast. I'm your host, Matt Velvet, and today I'm telling you the real tea about the new Taylor Swift documentary. So, buckle up.
Wisdom Wayne, so insane. Tell me what is on your brain. Tell me what is on your brain. Yeah.
So I watched the new Taylor Swift docuseries on Disney Plus called Taylor Swift End of an Era. So it was about her Eras tour, and honestly, I wouldn't consider myself a Swiftie, but I am a fan of music, a fan of performances, pop culture, and I did see the Eras tour when it was in theaters. I thought that was amazing. I was really blown away by that. So I really wanted to see the behind the scenes, and this is a 6 episode series. So the first two came out today, and the rest two come out next Friday, and then two the following Friday, I believe, or something like that. So I decided to do a review on it. I reviewed the Kanye West documentary when it came out, and that did really well. So I figured you guys might want to hear my thoughts on Miss Taylor Swift. We start with episode 1, which begins in Vancouver, British Columbia, at the last show of the Eras tour. It starts with an inspiring speech from Taylor to her dancers about sticking to their craft, about realizing the difficulties of being a dancer, of being an artist. It was really relatable. And she gave them some really great advice for when they start mentoring the next generation. She said, do it, try it, go for it. And I was really inspired. And then we see the blueprints of the stage. She talks about what went into planning it. It took about 2 years of planning the tour. She wanted to do something big. She hadn't toured in a while. COVID happened. She released Evermore and Folklore. And, the fans really wanted a tour. So she really wanted to do something big. And just an overarching theme of this docuseries is that she really wants to give the fans something unique, something that they're going to really enjoy, and she doesn't want them to feel like they missed out on anything. So she's really big on the fan experience. She also talks about some kind of hardships she went through leading up to the tour, which includes having her music catalog sold from underneath her by Scooter Braun. But she was talking about how she was able to flip it and decided to think of it as things happening for her instead of happening to her. And I thought that was really inspiring. She also talks about the process of re-recording her albums. We see the behind the scenes of planning the tour, blueprints, things like that. And then we see, she went on Good Morning America and announced the tour. No one really knew how big this tour was going to be. And for some reason or another, because the fans are crazy and really were excited about this, there was a demand for 255 stadiums, which is insane. It showed, kind of the pandemonium of the Eras tour, people Taylor-gating, which is what they called it, outside the stadium. They talk about the terrorist plot that happened in Vienna, Austria on August 8th of 2024. The 3 concerts that were scheduled there had to be canceled, and Taylor didn't even make it to Austria. She was on the plane on the way there when it happened. There was a guy that was responsible who had chemical explosives, ISIS propaganda, and other things at his house. Also, in London, there were 3 kids that were unalived at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in London. And she was, visibly upset about this happening, which, obviously. And it kind of talked about her struggle with continuing on with the tour even after this terrorist scare, and it kind of reminded me of Ariana Grande when she had her tour and like the Manchester, I believe, bombing. So, obviously that's a scary thing. Then it cuts to her talking to Travis Kelce, comparing how touring is the same as him playing football, and it was really cute, whatever. We hear from her guitarist, Amos, who started working with her in 2007. He's kind of questioning what makes a 3+ hour show with 40 something songs work. He's been doing this for a long time, and he was under the assumption that maybe they would remove some songs or edit it down, but instead they just added more. Yeah, it was a big concert, a really lengthy concert, a lot of songs, a lot of physical, mental demand, and we see a very vulnerable Taylor backstage trying to hide her anxieties due to the show from her crew. She's having a physical reaction to her nerves on the first show back after the attacks. And while she's going through this, her mom comes in to comfort her, and it's really sweet. Ed Sheeran makes an appearance. They talk about what happened in Vienna, and then Taylor talks about wanting to she is taking 2 months off. She wants to go on vacation and get away from everyone, which, that kind of gave me some hope that she's an actual human and not a robot, because obviously you would need a break after that. But it just goes to show how good she is at handling pressure and not letting it affect her performance or her job. They rehearse together, blah blah blah. He performs with her. Then it shows her meeting with the families of the attacks before the show. She was crying, rightly so, but then it shows how, she kind of has to go through this emotional time and then immediately snap into performance mode, which she does. That episode ends with her going home after the performance, drawing the bath, and she ends her day with watching a lot of TV, ordering room service, signing a lot of CDs, and finding ways to wind down. She said sometimes she goes to bed at 4 a.m., and this is the time when most people would need drugs, but she does not take drugs. She just falls asleep when she falls asleep, and that's the end of episode 1. So episode 2 picks up after the show at Wembley Stadium in London. It seems kind of like this refreshed energy going into the leg of the tour, going into this second leg of the tour, but also a new kind of stress and new challenges. One of those being adding the Tortured Poets Department to the set list, because in her 2-month period, she did this secret thing of creating the Tortured Poets Department. Now we have to rehearse for that, get the songs, get the choreography, and pretty much create a brand new show. She talked about her fear of people not liking the new show, which debuted in Paris, because, there was such a great response from the first leg of the tour that she had concerns that maybe people would miss the original show instead of this new version of it. So we get to learn more about the choreographer Amanda, who toured with Janet Jackson, Celine Dion, Lady Gaga, and many others. She kind of was filling in for Taylor, giving her advice, whatever. Her other choreographer is Mandy Moore. Not the actress. I know I was confused too, but it's not the actress. It's just a choreographer. So, Amanda decides to join the tour. Then it shows them getting ready to have Florence join them from Florence and the Machine for their song Florida, which is from the Tortured Poets Department. And then we're introduced to Cameron, who is one of the dancers, who was a bigger black guy who went pretty viral during the Eras tour. He talks about how much he values the vibe and the space that Taylor curates, and how he wishes that this kind of space existed outside of the tour as well. He talks a lot about his family, about his mom and the sacrifices she made, and about his brother, who is on the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, as well, ironically, or coincidentally. And he's in the NFL, so it's pretty cool to see that kind of dynamic. He talks about his struggles with his weight and being criticized for that coming up in dance. Taylor talks about him and how she enjoys that he steals the show sometimes and that she wants her dancers to do that and to be their own star. And then we learn about bonus day and see her hand wax sealing all these letters that she's giving to her crew along with their bonus, which they didn't say exactly how much the bonus was, but they showed screenshots of articles saying that the bonuses for the truck drivers at least were $100,000. I don't know if the dancers received more or whatever, but in total she gave out $176 million in bonuses, which is crazy but also really cool. She talks about how good she feels about doing it because of she understands the sacrifices that everyone made being away from their family. She thinks about these people returning to their family, being able to take time off after this lengthy tour. And it's cool that she values that, and it just shows how good of a person she is, really. And I think that's amazing. She's kind of setting the precedent for how crew members should be treated. You know, she's doing this really huge tour, one of the biggest tours of all time, and like she did with Spotify and streaming, she kind of wants to set the tone for other people to say this is how you should treat your crew, which I think is really great. We see a touching moment with Cam's mom. He's able to show his gratitude for the sacrifices she's made. And then we see the show that Cam's mom is at. She's dancing, having a great time. And Cam has a little cameo, and we are never getting back together, or whatever that song is. Like Ever, that part, I think. And then Florence performs as well. And so we see that go from rehearsal to the main stage. That episode kind of ends there with that performance. And I really enjoyed these first two episodes. I knew they'd be great. I knew they'd be cool, but I was kind of wondering how they would stretch it out between 6 episodes, you know, instead of just doing 1 2-hour movie like the Kanye documentary. But I think it's cool to kind of get to know some of her crew members better. And I just find it really interesting as someone who enjoys pop culture, pop music, music in general, performances, and really documentaries. I love documentaries. I used to want them to make them. So I love a good documentary, good docuseries, especially when it's about pop culture. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend you watch it. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch it. If you watched it, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the Wisdom Wayne podcast. I am your host, Matt Velvet, and until next time, bye.